Another interesting question. What specific times will they land Starship by Mechazzilla arm? In my opinion, this can happen this year, but not in upcoming flights like Flight 4 or Flight 5. Firstly, SpaceX has not yet completely mastered the landing process when both stages encountered problems and exploded mid-flight. SpaceX still needs more tests to make sure they can control everything before thinking about catching with the Mechazzilla arm. At present, the method of landing in the ocean is clearly the safest option. Secondly, the current launch tower will have a very difficult time handling both launch and landing in such a short turnaround time, which should be approximately an hour. It's believed that if SpaceX wants to use this method, they need another launch tower to be responsible for the catching mission. In the best case scenario, it'll be the second launch tower that SpaceX is planning to build at Starbase. But SpaceX has not yet started this work even when almost all segments have arrived. This is probably related to the Starbase expansion procedure that SpaceX is requesting. Based on the previous launch tower construction progress, SpaceX still might need several months, if not half a year, for this work. That's why the Mechazzilla arm landing probably won't happen for about 1 or 2 flights. Instead, we might have to wait until at least Flight 6. It's also believed that Flight 4 and Flight 5 will give SpaceX the mastery in the landing portion of the mission, all while the new launch tower may be completed around the same time. In any case, Flight 3 was a huge stride compared to the previous 2 flights. Thanks to the great upgrades, it flew longer and reached significantly higher altitudes. In particular, both stages have entered the landing process. Although there were still problems, the booster was less than 500 meters from the ocean's surface, and the ship also had an impressive few minutes of re-entry with the surrounding plasma effect. In order to accomplish these goals, SpaceX still needs to perform many upgrades. Whether they land with a Mechazzilla arm or land in the ocean, landing support parts like engines or grid fins must work properly and optimally. The booster engine on the last flight worked better than on previous flights, but still had problems when activating for landing. This caused the booster to fall at a breakneck speed of up to 1,112 kilometers per hour at the time of the explosion. Therefore, SpaceX will still need to test an upgrade to improve engine reliability for the entire flight, which is beneficial to both the booster and ship in order to complete the remaining missions. With progress through each flight, it's believed that it will be soon completed. Next, the grid fin also needs an adjustment. Although less mentioned than the engine, the grid fin is also considered the cause of the difficult landing, showing the strong vibrations in the final period of the flight. The grid fin on the booster and the flap on the ship will need to be upgraded in order to ensure the ability to navigate and change the posture of the prototype, making the landing process a little bit smoother. With the ship, SpaceX also needs to upgrade the heat shield system. This system also performed quite well in the recent flight. The biggest upgrade that needs to be done will be the installation stage. SpaceX will need to ensure that the heat shield will be firmly attached to the prototype, avoiding falling off like in previous flights. And of course, SpaceX needs to start building a new launch tower right now. Although they will not use the Mechazzilla arm catching system on the next flight, they still need to do it as soon as possible, by the end of this year at the latest. Even though SpaceX has experience with this work with the current tower at the launch site in the tower in Florida and the tower in Florida, they may still need several months, as mentioned before, to complete all systems including the tower, Mechazzilla arm, OLM, water deluge system, and more. Once built, they will also need to test a lot before putting it into operation. More than ever, this is the time for them to ramp up that work. But it can be said that the moment that we witness Starship landing is fast approaching. Landing and reuse. Both are difficult, nigh impossible for many organizations. But with SpaceX, everything is gradually becoming a normal task. They surprised the world after doing this with the Falcon 9. So what's to say that they won't be able to do so with the Starship next? And besides, once successful, the landing and reuse of the world's largest rocket will become a new symbol of the aerospace industry standard. So let's get ready to welcome our protagonist, the Starship, especially after it returns from its magical journey from the skies. Well folks, that's about it for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, this is Kevin from Great SpaceX, and until next time, keep looking up.